Welcome back to another episode of the BioHub. Today we have an incredible episode lined up with a phenomenal guest, Raphael Ognar. Raphael is the president and CEO and co-founder of NKILT Therapeutics, a biotech company developing innovative cell therapies to target leukemias and solid tumors. With over 25 years in the pharma and biotech industries, Raphael has a wealth of experience in oncology, hematology, and cell therapy. Today, we'll explore the origin of NKILT, how Raphael found the right partners, and the challenges of securing funding for early-stage biotechs. He'll also share his journey at companies like Celgene, Novartis, and BMS, how he handles pressure, and his decision-making process as a CEO. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome Rafa. Rafa, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Max, for the kind introduction.
No problem. We'll jump straight in. So, Rafa, just to start, can you share the story behind the founding of NKILT? What inspired you to start this company, and how did you develop the idea for your novel approach to engineering NK cells?
Yes, thank you, Max. So, as you mentioned, I've been in this industry for over 25 years. Actually, I'm crossing over 26 now. And the idea of building a biotech was always in the back of my mind, particularly after my time, by the end of my time at Novartis Oncology, when I was working on pipeline and drug development. It really planted a seed of creating something and bringing it to the finish line, which was really a great learning experience. The main factor that made me moving forward was the combination of finding the right idea, obviously, but also the right people to go on a journey with, which is probably the most important component of my decision in moving forward. As you mentioned, I've been in this business for long, and by the end of my time in corporate pharma, I was starting to feel that I was too far from what was the essence and the initial reason why I wanted to go in that industry, which was to try to develop new drugs for patients.
Mm-hmm.
And when I back in 2018, when I kind of reached a point in my career where I could make a decision in changing dramatically what I was doing, and I felt ready to make that change. When I say ready, is having enough confidence and experience to be able to take something different. I decided to create my own consulting company that's called Animate LLC. And through that consulting, the goal was to focus essentially on early stage startups, immuno-oncology, cell therapy, biotechs. And the goal was to help them with any operations and strategic work in order to help them moving to their next milestone.
Mm-hmm.
Through that journey, I met a lot of different people, and I started to expand my network beyond the pharma network, more on the entrepreneur side, investor side, some other key stakeholders in the business. And happened what I was expecting and hoping to see happening. I met with some really great minds, brilliant scientists or great leaders. And at some point, there was a clear matchmaking that happened between a couple of people where we shared common ideas, but more importantly, we shared a common view on what we felt needed to happen in the field of cell therapy. Cell therapy needed to have, in our views, two main pivotal evolutions, if I were not to say change, but evolutions, um, in order to be able to go to the next level. The first one is that we think that we needed to look at cell therapy in a different way, not only trying to repeat what was successful, but try to really build different cell therapy with more fit for purpose technology. And that's an important point for us. The fit for purpose is like not taking a CAR T that was developed and then put it in an NK cell and say, okay, oh, it's going to work, or take a CAR T that was used to design to target CD19 and then try to craft it to make it design another target. It could work, but there was a feel that it was not really exactly what those cells will be made of.
Mm-hmm.
The second aspect was about the access to cell therapy. As brilliant and as great those technologies are, unfortunately, not so many patients can benefit from it. There's a cost component, but even beyond cost, it is needed to make it more accessible overall and scalable. The current technologies that are what we call autologous, which you take the cells of a patient, the immune cells of a patient, you engineer them and you bring them back to the patient. That's a very, very complex and difficult manufacturing process, but it also takes time and it has a lot of limitation in scaling to make it cheaper and more accessible. We decided that it's time to go for what we call allogenic technology, where you take normal immune cells from donors, engineer them, and then give them to patients. So they are not the patient cells, they are different cells. But from a scalability, it's much better and it helps us creating a true off-the-shelf approach. With those two
Nice.
things in mind, that's how we said we need to do something different. And I met with someone that I wanted to actually hire on a project as a head of R&D, Dr. Hank Bale, and we really matched very quickly on this idea and started thinking about how we could build something from it. And it took us 8 months approximately of back and forth conversation, discussions, exchange, investigation on the science, looking at all the things that we could do, all the ideas we had. And we zoned in a specific idea, which was starting with natural killer cells, engineering them towards a target that was significantly understudied in oncology, but had some very promising outcome due to its role in oncology. The target is called HLA-G, which is expressed in over half of cancers. And then decided that we could have the capability of creating our own. So he isolated himself for 2-3 weeks after this period of 8 months and wrote the IP, the foundational IP of our technology.
Amazing.
Then we reviewed it. We embarked a second and a third co-founder, Simon Wayne Hobson, that has an incredible pedigree we could discuss at later stage. And altogether, we saw that we had something that could be eventually worth trying to create a company around it. We filed an application for IP, a provisional IP, and then we found crazy people that were crazy enough to give us a first round of money so we can start to generate science and data behind that idea. And then back in May 2022 and mid-May 2022, we had our first scientists working in a lab generating the data needed to back up our concept.
Yeah.
That's really how it started. Fast forward, we are now looking for a path to get to 2 INDs, so 2 programs, one in leukemia, one in solid tumor. And I have to say it upfront, I'm very proud that our in vitro data in leukemia, which is the very beginning of our concept, the data was so strong that it allowed us to have a oral presentation at the 2023 annual meeting of ASH, the
Incredible.
American Society of Hematology, which is not something that happens easily and casually. So I'm actually very proud that we could be granted this, which is somewhat a testament to the data and the technology we're developing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it's what startups are all about, and it's positive energy in that journey. You also spoke about the people you're on that journey with. I think you said it really well. And some people look their whole lives for the right partners to do a venture like this with. How did you go about it to find the right partners to join you on this venture?
Yeah, that's actually it's interesting because working in corporate pharma for many years, most of the time you don't really choose who you're working with. In a large company, you start with an interview. Someone probably that will be your manager is interviewing you. You have a good connection. There's a good fit, or that's perfect. And then many times, 6 months or a year after, that manager goes to a new job or a new position in the organization, because the musical chairs is something that happens pretty much all the time in large corporation. And you end up having to deal with people that you may not have chosen to work with, which it's okay, it's part of the journey. Sometimes it can be frustrating because you went with a specific value proposition and then this value proposition changes and you're like, okay, well, I have to deal with it. One of the beauty of creating your own business in some way is that at some point you are the one responsible for who you cherry pick to go to you on that journey. It's a lot of responsibility because if you pick wrong, it's on you. On the other side, it gives such a privilege to say, yes, I'm going to work with who I want to work with, and I'm going to embark in a journey with those people. And it's almost like I was talking about matchmaking. It's really almost like a marriage at some point, because when you embark in early stage biotech, you're going to live together. I'm probably spending more times with my co-founders than with my family, which is not necessarily good, but it's the reality of it.
So true.
So that's very important. And the reason why I started only a few years ago, this biotech, and not 10 years ago or 15 years ago, it's just because I didn't feel ready. And I could have had the opportunity by that time, but I didn't feel ready because I didn't feel that the people I would embark with were the right one.
Hmm.
And I think that's really extremely important. It's really key that when you create something that becomes somewhat your baby, we have that tendency of like personalizing and then making it your baby, which is sometimes difficult. uh, you need to be sure that the people that are going to be by your side are 100% aligned.
Yeah.
They accept you for the way you are, your pluses and minuses, your good and bad days, and you do the same with them. Once you have that gel that is in place, I think the only thing that are going to stop you are contingent to market situations, or the science doesn't deliver or things like this. That's another story. But you cannot have people not being aligned and not being able to work together properly. So this is, to me, critical. I'm going to add just a one side comment. The concept of partnership is, of course, beyond the co-founders and the early stage members of a company. It also the people that you're going to work with, whether it's investors that you're going to bring on board, or potential vendors that you're going to partner with to work on your technology, regulatory partners, or manufacturing partners. I actually approach the thing the same way.
Hmm.
It has to be a people connection.
I agree.
People, companies and partners with great capabilities, talent, whatever, you find them all over the world. Most people in our industry are talented. Most people know what they're doing. They're great at what they're doing. But if it's not a fit between the people, it's never going to work. If the communication
So true.
doesn't go well, it's not going to work. So I always consider that you between two organizations or two potential partners, um, the one that will have the best fit from a human being perspective will most likely be the one that we will go with. Because when you can say something to someone when things are wrong, you are saving a lot of time and money down the road. When you cannot have a dialogue with someone and you just stick to what is in the contract and formalized, but there is no real exchange, at some point things are going to fall apart. That's the view I have, and that's the way I always
I think that's
approach.
brilliant. I mean, as a vendor myself as well, that's kind of what we want. And I actually, speak about this quite a lot. I mean, the reason you pick, I suppose in my case, a recruiter is very much comes down to likability and connection. Do you get along? Do you respect each other? And it's all those points. And yes, picking those co-founders to go on that journey with you at the start is like up here importance. But yeah, the vendors, you
Yeah.
need to make sure you get the right ones as well, and almost quiz them as if they're going to be working for you, because at the end of the day, they're also representing your company.
And that's correct. Everybody that is working with you is an extension of you. So you have to be sure that you are confident that they're going to represent you the way you want to be represented. And it goes both ways. I actually want to insist that the concept of partnership is a two-way stream. It's like communication, it's a two-way stream. You don't just say something and then they execute. You don't
Hmm.
just, because you said something, that's it, they're done. No, you need to receive from them, yes, we got it, we know exactly what needs to happen, and here is how it's going to happen. It always has to be two-way stream. There's a tendency, particularly in the digital world, and this is more related to communication, where people said, well, I sent you an email. Okay, you sent me an email, doesn't mean anything. It just means that you sent me an information. Did I acknowledge and responded to it and say, yes, I got it? That's a different thing. And I actually, that's why I always try as much as possible to respond to emails, if even sometimes it's very overwhelming, even if it's just said, not interested, and that's it. It's not being rude. It's actually being respectful of saying, this is my answer. No need to further waste time. or yes, interested in these conditions at that timing or whatever. But it's very important that people remember that everything we do with others has to be a two-way stream, or it will not work.
Could not agree more, honestly. And then I suppose another startup, especially in this day and age, what I suppose you don't want to hear about it, but it's a thing that's constantly on your mind. But fundraising, securing funding, just talk about, I suppose, specifically your struggles, and then maybe what you've seen in the market in terms of fundraising.
Yeah. So I think everybody in the early stage biotech today, particularly in cell therapy, will be saying, yes, of course, fundraising is extremely difficult. So I will just state before going into some details that in the 26 years I've been in the business, I've never seen an environment that was so bad for early stage biotech. I don't think anybody's going to contradict me. Yes, there were ups and downs, but the biotech industry was somewhat in a form of bubble for the past couple of decades. And even when there were challenges, there was always some rebounds. We just came out, and I will essentially describe what happened in cell therapy because that's where I am currently. But it can be expanded a little bit to other disease area and other modalities. But we were in a frenzy of craziness in terms of company valuation, people investing huge amount of money. Money was cheap or almost free, even some would say. And 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 so it didn't matter if something would not work because you could easily invest in other things, and the valuation was so high that as soon as you will have one exit or one whatever investment event, you will recoup and multiply the amount you have invested to a degree that was so high that it would be worth it. Now, I think it triggered some weird behaviors also from all the stakeholders, but I'm not going to detail this. Uh, the challenge, I think, what is the most difficult is that so many investors burn their wings, whether it was because of wrong decision made at the time or just sometime bad luck. That doesn't matter. The fact is that today the pool of investors that used to invest in early stage company are no longer do it, or has significantly shrank. Like when there were 100 investors that would invest in the early stage, today there might be 10 or
Wow.
15. And so finding those becomes extremely challenging. And on the same side, the number of new companies that were created in the past decades just exploded. So there is more demand and significantly less people that are willing to respond to that demand. That equation doesn't work. So it is really big challenge, and everything that is not going your way becomes an excuse for not being a good investment. So it takes us much more to convince. It also makes investors pickier and more demanding on what they want to see before they invest. And what is the biggest difficulty today is that they all want clinical data, but for us, particularly companies like me, I'm 2.5 years at least from the
Yeah.
clinic. I still need money to get there. And everybody comes and say, "Yeah, this is really interesting, but we will be only interested in talking to you once you have clinical data." And these are people that used to invest in pre-seed or seed stages. So that's going to be a difficulty. And there are a few that will invest early. It's just harder to find them. So the scouting is bigger, is more intense. There are more denials than they used to be, and the journey takes much longer. So I think I could say that how we can be prepared for this is a series of points that actually we need to always keep in mind. The first one is that it's going to take longer than what you ever expect it will.
Yeah.
If you think that your round is going to take 6 months, probably plan for 9 to 12 months instead.
Yeah.
Um, if you think that you're going to need to screen 100 investors to be able to get a couple to sign off on you, probably multiply by 5 or 6 this number before you can get to a number that is acceptable. Um, you're going to also have to look at maybe different investors. You know, going to, in my case, cell therapy investors where, yes, they will understand your business, but they already have a lot of things that they need to salvage. They have companies in their portfolio that might be in term or in cell therapy, or that needs to be kind of supported to be able to go to the finish line. So the last thing they're going to want is to add another new one that has this high risk, high reward potential,
Yeah.
because they're already managing many of those. So you're going to need to look at different investors, meaning you're going to have to convince them about your business that is not necessarily their bread and butter. So that's going to be, it's going to require different approaches, and you're going to have to be creative in the way you talk to them. And the last point I will say, because we could have multiple things that we say, is that always be ready when you are fundraising, that any moment of your business life can become a fundraising conversation. So you need to have right on top of your fingertips and your head a 2-minute pitch, elevator speech, a 5-slide deck that you can share with someone that they can look at it in 5-10 minutes and then give a quick feedback. Of course, your standard non-confidential deck that can have a little bit more, like a dozen of slides or slightly more, and eventually confidential material if you were to pass the first screening. But always be in that mode that anybody you're talking to can be the one that will either invest or lead you to someone that's going to invest. And that's, in some way, it's hard, it's exhausting, but you have to be ready, and always consider that someone you're talking to, the way you're going to explain what you're doing, the way you're going to behave, is
Hmm.
going to give them information on whether or not they're going to say, yeah, let's go to the next round. Because as I said, every single thing could become an excuse for them not to invest, just because there are so many things that they don't control eventually on the market, that they want to be sure at least of the people they are talking to and embarking with.
Yeah. No, it's tough. I mean, I even see it from my standpoint. I mean, I think probably when I started my recruitment career in biotech, my main customers were startups. They were who I worked with. I really enjoyed working with them but then it gets harder because startups are now struggling. It's like, I'm almost working with companies that little bit, further to the clinic or whatever it may be. So it's even crazy how it's changed from our standpoint, never mind from yours, which is, so much more high rated. Um,
Yeah.
and look, I just want to talk about your career as well. You've had roles with Celgene, Novartis Oncology, BMS. Um, how did these experiences shape your approach within NKILT?
Well, that's actually my time in those company. First, were I had the opportunity to do many different roles, which was always my approach in life. Is I'm not necessarily what we would call a vertical person that will start somewhere and just climb the ladder
Yeah,
as high as it is possible. Um, I had a tendency of needing to learn different and new things on a regular basis. And when I get confident and comfortable in something, in some way, it may be a little strong, but I get bored. And then when I get bored, I lose the flame and the excitement to be able to really go one step beyond than what you would do to just achieve something.
yeah,
And I could have been in a very comfortable series of roles where I would be cruising, probably making a ton of money, doing things that were, more or less the same ones, and managing a team and all this, in a large corporate pharma. And life would be great. The problem is that if I don't learn new things, if I don't grow, if I don't challenge myself, I'm not satisfied. So my journey was made of different milestones. I started in marketing, launching products in countries, then global marketing, having global responsibilities, and dealing with multiple different type of situations in different countries, different regions. Then I went to more strategic marketing, where the idea was more like how do we set up the ground in order to be successful in operational outcomes. Did pipeline opportunities, leading pipeline assets. Like I said, this is where I had the opportunity to have two AMO programs going to approval in lung and in myeloma. And then I pivoted to strategy, working for CFO and CEO at Celgene and at BMS, inside the C-suite, interacting with leaders, watching them, leading the overall corporate strategy of the company. Um, it was complete different approaches. I was actually essentially in the middle of finance and consulting people, which was not my world, and I had to learn a lot of things. But I had the privilege of learning with the top leaders
Nice.
of organizations, and even just watching them and talking to them was a learning experience. And I wanted to know more about it. And I think this is really had a huge impact on me because there's so many things that I identified on the what to do and what not to do. I made mistakes. I got bruised, but then I learned. And then I realized, there are things you can say, but not to every audience or not to in every circumstances. So that was really, I really saw my time in pharma as a continuous learning experience where I grew and I that at some point reached the situation where I was like, now I think I'm ready to take it on my own and to be one of those leaders that's gonna have to handle things, that's gonna have to do decision making, that's gonna have to lead people, empower them, and give them all the keys to be able to be successful. So it was really a very strong foundation. And as much as I'm not necessarily in alignment with the way large pharma is conducting business today, which is significantly different than small biotech, um, I do have a lot of respect because essentially everything I know today,
Yeah.
I got it there. And so there are a few leaders over there. I had incredible leaders. I had also not so good ones, but I had incredible leaders that had a significant impact on me and that gave me what I need to have today to do my job as
Yeah.
CEO of NKILT.
That's amazing. I mean, you just demonstrated it there in what you were saying, but your mindset is, I find fascinating. To go from Celgene, BMS, Novartis, and then go, right, okay, let's go one of three founders to do what you're doing. And it's building a biotech from scratch. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's probably, I would say, one of the hardest startups to try and build. What mindset do you adopt to stay resilient and focused on the ups and downs?
Yeah, first I would tell everybody don't do that. It's, I mean, there are easier way of creating a biotech. Don't do everything from scratch, your own
Hmm.
technology, whatever. Because for example, one of the tough thing that we are facing in fundraising is that because we're not a spin-off of academy. We don't have a technology coming from Stanford or from whatever
Yeah,
great cancer center. Uh, we created it. So there's always a first thing where people say like, "Oh, really? Like, so who is behind?" And it's like, "Well, it's us that is behind." So it makes it even harder than you can ever describe. But um, it's like everything. I consider that impossible shouldn't be part of the vocabulary on what we're doing. It's about moving forward step after step, identifying exactly what needs to happen, and B, you mentioned the term be resilient. Um, uh, that I think is the quality I didn't know I had. And along the years, and particularly in this job, never give up, never stop, never doubt that what you're doing is the right thing. You're going to have failures, you're going to make mistakes. The science can fail you. I mean, you have a brilliant idea, and then at the end, there's a weird thing happening
yeah,
because that's science. You know, I don't think we are responsible of any failures that are science related. Maybe we can we can spot things and do better experiments, yes. But if we do a wrong experiment, it's not the science that fails; it's us doing the wrong experiment. If there is a true issue with a target that is a safety thing or that just doesn't work, well, it doesn't work. Our job is to anticipate it, work with it, and find us an exit solution if we need to have an exit solution. So I think it's really the challenges are back to what I think matters is ensuring that the people
yeah.
work well together and are well aligned and delivering 100% or maybe 150% of what they can deliver. The other point I will highlight is that, and it is really important to me and to NKILT people, you never succeed alone. I don't believe in that kind of trend that we see sometimes. There's a, oh yeah, that person is extraordinary and it's all on them, and not to point fingers, but you know, as everybody can say, Elon Musk is a genius, whatever. He is likely. You can agree or disagree with the way he's leading his business, but if he's successful, it's because there are an army of people that
Such a
are
good
doing
point.
an extraordinary work under his leadership. So leadership is one thing; it's critical, but I don't like the cult of personality and says like it's all about me. I'm the CEO. I represent the company. Yes, I represent the company, but it cannot be about me. It's about what we are doing, why we are doing it, and it's about the people that I surround myself with that are delivering
Yeah,
towards our goals. It will always have to be this. This is for me the big ambiguity of CEO. I had so many people saying to be a CEO, you have to have some form of ego because you have to carry the company on your shoulders, which I agree overall, but you can also carry it in a different way and saying, I'm the representative of it. So, yes, I need to have some form of strength and be comfortable in doing such, but I trust my people and they can represent us. They can be on stage, they can be interacting with someone. If they are not doing a good job, that's on me. It's because I didn't train them or coach them appropriately, or I didn't give them the keys to be comfortable and do what they have to do. So, this is extremely important to me because without my team, without the right partners, we talked
yeah,
about partners earlier, we will be nothing. We are just an idea that we're trying to implement, and then the people come together and then we make a difference. And then the very last point about this that is critical is that don't underestimate the importance of your people outside of work, your family, your friends. You have a tendency of neglecting them when you get into a journey like this because you're so dedicated to your work, to trying to make this biotech working. If I could do this, it's because I have my wife standing by me since day one, even if it's challenging, even if it's difficult, even if she knows because she's in the business also that the path I took is the hardest we could have ever taken. And often she said, can you please try one day to do something less complicated and less challenging? But she never doubted me and she
incredible.
never let me down because she could see that that's what I wanted to do. My kids, my friends, the day you're going to be down, because it will happen that they're going to have days you're going to be down, they are your vital source to re-energize. And treat them well. Don't forget about them because the one day you may just need them to be there for you. And I'm blessed to have a handful of very good friends and my direct family members always there when they see that I'm struggling and whatever, giving a hand and say, hey, is there anything, just even just sitting with you and talking about something, listening to something or whatever. It is so important. And I think for me, the concept of superhero CEO, I don't believe in it. We're human beings like everybody. We have our flaws and I think we need to embrace them because it's what makes us human. And yes, it doesn't mean we cannot move mountains. It's just that we have to
Yeah,
remember what
that's
we are.
powerful.
That's all.
And that's 100% true. I mean, the amount of CEOs who have done what you've done and then maybe said to me, going, look, my biggest regret is neglecting my family. But also, the way you said it, they're like a support network. You need them as much as they need you, and those down days, it's like, who do I go to? Who do I put my frustrations on? And yeah, it's so, so important. I mean, that leads so nicely into the next question as well, which is just talking about how the pressure in biotech can be so intense. You're talking about investors relying on you, your team. How do you manage stress and maintain your own mental health as well?
Yeah. So I think I would love to say, oh, I can handle all this. That's easy. I have a ton of methods and solutions. I'll lie if I say that. It is not easy. I'm not gonna. It's a stress is something that we live with. Our societies are hyper stressful, but First, the supporting network that you have around you, that's key, and don't get cut from it. And I mentioned it earlier. I think one of the important aspects is to find a way to step out of it, even if it's just for half a day, a weekend, take vacation. I keep saying, and I need to force myself sometimes to do it, that the earth is not going to stop rolling, you know, if you take a few days off. Yes, you're in the middle of a deal, you have to finish it, of course. The tension is there, the stress is there, that's okay. But um, you need to take care of yourself and to take care of your people, because if you burn yourself and you burn them, there's nothing that's going to happen. So force yourself to create areas of freedom
Yeah.
out of the business. um, find your own way. Some people it's meditation, some people will be watching a movie, some people will be playing a game, some people will be sport. It doesn't matter what it is, it can be a combination of those, but be sure to have those moments for you as a leader. Sometime I just go and do a run with a podcast, listening to stuff that are, I used to say I listen to soccer things, because soccer is one,
Yeah.
is one of my thing. Or I watch a soccer game where sometimes I fall asleep in front of it. Uh, and I was talking to a friend that is very much into meditation, and they were telling me, this is actually your way of meditating. It's just your expression of it. Some people will have to do yoga. You do this. If it makes you feel better, if it makes you feel relaxing, like you can fall asleep during it, or when you do a jog with a podcast, and you just for half an hour don't think about your business, or maybe you think about
Yeah.
it but in a different manner, like it's sinking in. That's the way to do it. Don't neglect those times, they're critical. um, get off it. I like to go play with my dogs, spend time of course with my family, have a drink with friends. These are my way of expulsing that pressure, and getting away from it. And talking stupid with some friends is just fun. It's a way of going out. uh, but it is important. And remember that if you need this, your
Yeah.
people need it too. So allow them and enforce them to do it also. I had to actually tell my lab scientists to go and take some days off, because they were so passionate about what they were doing. They would just work, do experiment after experiment after experiment, which is one of the reasons why we made so fast progress with so little resource. But I literally said, that's enough. You're going to take a week off. You're not going to start the next experiment, because I need you to rest and take care of yourself. Because when you're going to come back, maybe it's going to be crazier. So let's just be sure that you are taking care of yourself. And it's very important to apply to you and to others,
Yeah.
what you want
I
to
mean,
do.
a couple of things there that resonated with me. I actually fairly recently started meditating, and it's because of a bunch of top execs, high flyers, that they all do it. And I actually find if I do 5 minutes meditation in the morning, it really sets up my day, and it sets me out completely different to if I hadn't done it. So it's changed my life, I would say, in a way. And a lot of mindsets you get from people who do meditate is they can often sit back and go, like you said, the earth doesn't stop spinning. It's like, well, how much of this actually matters, really? If I step back and look at it, does it really matter if that doesn't go my way? And that mindset is so different. And then the other thing,
Yeah.
sorry, go
You know,
ahead. And
no, no,
I was
please
going to
go.
say the other thing is, while we're recording this, there's obviously the Euros and the soccer going on. And the one thing I was going to say is watching England at the moment is definitely not relaxing. So maybe I shouldn't do that to try and relax.
I will probably feel the same by watching France later on. But yeah, it is. I understand. But even if it's not relaxing, it is actually putting you away from your business,
Yeah.
and it has an impact. The thing I wanted to just share, because it's a thing that I discovered, like almost at the same time when I started NKILT. I have a routine when I'm at my house where I have two rescued pit bulls that are adorable. They went through hell in life before we rescued them, and now they're finally having the life they deserve. But I do with my dogs a morning routine. When I drink my coffee, when I wake up, I they come to me, they sit, you know, literally in front of me, and I do the what I call the rib rub, which I do like I'm rubbing on their ribs, on their rib cage, while I'm drinking my coffee, and they're enjoying it, and they just go and sleep a little bit. It takes probably 10-15 minutes of my time, and every morning I am with them. I try to do this. It really helps so much, kind of settling down before I
Yeah.
start the crazy day, knowing that the day is going to go back to back meetings and intense and whatever. That moment, I actually notice that when I cannot do it, I feel like I'm missing something. So every time I
That's
can,
incredible.
I just do it. And if I'm not home, whatever, I'm gonna have to find something different. But these are small anecdotes and details that I'm sure many of my peer CEOs and leaders are doing. Whether it's with their dog or another thing, like I said, it can be a 5 minute exercise or 10 minute exercise, whatever it is. But these are really key components that help us going through the stress. And we're not immune to stress, okay? We just It's just how you deal with it. And I'll be honest, there are moments where I need to go and do a big scream because it's not going my way, and then I come back and that's it. But it's okay. It's part of
Yeah.
it. We just need to expose that pressure because pressure is building up
Yeah. It just
constantly
shows you
for sure.
care as well. And then I suppose
Yeah.
just looking ahead, and I suppose the quick one because we're running out of a little bit of time, but what are you thinking for NKILT in the next few years? What milestones are you most excited about?
Yeah, there's so much we can say about what's going to happen because hopefully there's a lot to happen. Um, but I'll try to make it simple. First, our main goal is to bring our technology and our novel engineered immune cells. Uh, we want to bring that to patients. So the kind of major milestone is to get to an IND and be able to start in the clinic. I consider that if I have done this and patients suffering with cancer are able to test and to have hopefully benefits from our novel approach, I would consider I would have done already a significant part of my job. Um, what happens after, it's a different ball game. Of course, the ambition is to bring this to the finish line and get approved, and then eventually commercialize and all this. But yeah, that's the goal that we have. But if I were to have my eyes on something that is really like the real next big step, is that IND clearance, whether it's in leukemia, in solid tumor, or both. That's really the next major milestone. And to do this, we need some Series A fundraising that we will start hopefully before the end of the year, as we are generating now the data to have enough evidence to convince people to invest in
Yeah.
us for the IND. The immediate milestone is that we have very strong in vitro data as proof of concept in different tumors. We have preliminary in vivo data that I'm not going to disclose because we're saving this for some upcoming conferences, but they are confirming what we have seen in vitro. And the goal is to do a larger in vivo study that will really clear multiple of the questions that we have and emphasize some of the key benefits of our technology in terms of cancer cell killing and also in terms of persistence of our immune cells, their capability of persisting longer to be able to kill more and more cancer cells when they are in a mouse in that case. So we have to generate this data for AML and for solid tumor that we are going to be working over summer and early fall. And we have to start our process development for initiation of the manufacturing process. These are the immediate key milestones to have those first data set that are going to confirm that what we have seen in vitro is replicated in vivo. And once we have this, we should be able to convince Series A investors to embark with us to support the full development of a IND package for AML and then for solid tumors, which will then take a couple of years if everything goes well, and brings us to start the clinic by, let's say, 2026, if everything is smooth and easy, which is not going to be. But
At least you know
yeah, so there's a lot to happen. I also have to build in parallel the company, which is also extremely important. It's not just about generating data. You need to build an R&D engine with capabilities, people that are able to do things, to deliver, and to build the proper package to get to FDA. We need to have interaction with FDA. We're hopefully going to get an interact meeting, or we're going to request one by end of the year, early next year, to really start the dialogue with FDA, which will allow us to validate our path forward and of course confirm that what we are doing is what they expect to see in order to grant us the IND down the road. So this is really kind of the key things that we see. We're gonna need and seek for partnership. Of course, we're gonna want to do, like I said earlier, you never succeed alone. We believe that if we find the right partners along the way, we will go better, faster, and further. So that's going to be part of my job, to also ensure that we bring the right partners along the way. And I want to always keep in mind, as a conclusion of what we are doing, that we need to always remember why we're doing this. It's not because I'm a CEO of a biotech and have a great journey, as much as the journey is important. It's not because maybe we're going to make a lot of money. We're not today, but in the future, if we are successful and someone acquires NKILT, who knows? Yes, all these are things that are kind of technical aspect. We are here because we believe that what we are doing can help cancer patients. And cancer patients, unfortunately, too many of them still die because they have exhausted all existing options, all existing treatment. And it's our duty to continue to search for new approaches to lead to new treatments that are going to be able to help some patient population and have them eventually expanding their life, or at least being cancer free as long as possible. That's everything about NKILT. This is what motivates us. This is what makes us uh, wanting to continue to do this, even if we are not making a lot of money today, or not making money today, even if we are having hard days. We have insight, the opportunity to bring a new treatment for cancer patient. This is the mountain we have to climb. And if we do it, we will have done our part of the job. We will be one of the bricks of a wall against cancer. That's the main
Yeah.
humble way of looking at it. And I will close by just saying that what that journey has taught me the most is that you have to remain humble when you work in this business. Cancer will continue to kill patients. Cancer cells will continue to find a way to escape whatever treatment we create for them. And we are just a little brick in a wall that is fighting and trying to block cancer. We're doing the best we can, but we're just that. And it's all together, working in parallel, helping each other, competing against each other to be better. This is how we're going to eventually either eradicate or at least control and keep patient cancer free. That's the main thing that motivates me day in and day out.
Thank you so much, Rafa. It's been an absolute pleasure. And
Thank
look,
you.
everyone, please like, subscribe to the BioHub. Thanks, Rafa, and good luck. Good luck to France later on.
Hopefully they're gonna make it. They have to, and I'll don't tell me anything more about England because I tried
Yeah,
to watch it
we'll
later. So
see. We'll
we'll
see.
see.
Thanks, Rafa.
Well, thank you for the great time, and everybody, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You have our website, nkilt.com. We're pretty active on LinkedIn, and our door is always open for support, feedback, and interaction so we can get better at what we're doing.